seconds.
So guess what time it is? It's time for our audiences
Movie
and host favorite
time.
segment. It's movie time. Hey, Mike, I'm gonna let you take it away.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and all you wonderful listeners, we have come to a consensus that the TLS crew will vote on a movie that we will talk about. And to my understanding, this was unanimous.
No,
This
it was
was
not
a
unanimous.
That's a
That
lie.
was not
That's a
unanimous.
lie.
Nobody
That's
said
a
that was
lie.
unanimous.
I
We didn't say that.
I
That's a
think
lie.
Liz,
I think
Liz
Mike is.
spearheaded this choice.
Why you lying on the Sabbath? Why you lying on the folks' Sabbath? Why you lying on the folks' Sabbath?
Lizzie
we're
won
going
it.
to
Yeah.
talk about we're going to talk about the Quentin Tarantino movie Django Unchained, starring Jamie Foxx, Christoph Waltz, the N-word, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kerry Washington,
The N-word.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Starring the N-word.
Look, I'll give my thoughts really, really quickly because I don't want to have this conversation just be a review of the movie. I enjoy Quentin Tarantino's movies. They're not perfect. I don't think Quentin Tarantino is like the god amongst directors that people have kind of anointed him to be. I think he's pretty much just kind of like Michael Bay if Michael Bay hung out at Blockbuster Video instead of like playing with firecrackers and cars. You know what I mean? While this movie has a ton of problems to it, you don't come to Django Unchained for an interesting look at race and slavery in the 1800s. You go to Steve McQueen's film 12 Years a Slave for that.
12 Years a Slave. Yep.
Right. This is essentially a buddy, Western with a very, very simple story and a whole lot of blood. I had fun with it, but it's disposable. Like I enjoy it, but it's disposable. Rob, what do you think of this?
Yeah. I enjoyed the cinematography, the costumes, the shooting locations are all on point. This is a Tarantino flick, so I expect the violence to be escalated a little bit over the top. Entertaining, yes. But I was noting to Neo pre-show how this show has really helped reshape or hone my view of the world. And I really struggled with a lot of the cruelty that was inflicted upon the slaves physically and psychologically, emotionally. And it's just mind-bending to me to think that there are still people that cling to these types of ideas. So I found the movie to be a much tougher watch than I think I would have previously. Because, yeah. And I think it's just by virtue of having really great conversations that make you think, that make you perceive the world differently.
Well, I will say,
you're right. Like I'm not tuning into a Tarantino flick for historical accuracy, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Or
fun buddy film.
Yeah, exactly. Neo, what is your opinion of this film?
Yeah, I was gonna say to Rob's point. I mean, and to your point, 12 Years a Slave is definitely better if you want a biopic or to learn more about what it was like to really be a slave in that time frame. But this movie was fun because there were funny points, there were funny times, they were parodying a lot of the white people. I don't think he did do some parodying of black people. But I think his goal was to focus in on making fun of white people of the time. I loved the acting performances. I love Jamie Foxx. Christopher Waltz was amazing. And then Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, he played his character well. Shoot, Samuel playing the house slave.
Samuel Jackson played Samuel L. Jackson. Like,
okay,
it's the same character over.
He plays Samuel well. Samuel Jackson.
How do you not play yourself well? How do you not play yourself well?
It's actually surprisingly difficult. If you, trust me, it's actually surprisingly difficult. All right. This is the opinion that everyone has come from. Liz,
I'm sorry.
what is your opinion of this?
Hated it. She put a hated it. Okay. From living
Oh man,
in living
that's a blast
color.
from the past.
Hated it.
Men on
You
film.
know, Michael was not a part of our behind the scenes discussions about which movie we were going to pick, and I was very muted about why I didn't want this movie because I didn't want to seem like, okay, I'm just going to take over and we just going to do the movie that I want. I wanted everyone's opinion or whatever. However, I specifically did not want this movie to be what we showcased at the end of Black History Month. Um, I do not need comedy in any narrative about slavery, especially from a white director who is all about revenge fantasy, who is all about exploitation. And I really have a problem with directors, putting themselves in movies just for a cameo. So all of those things, like, bothered me. But, I agree with you. I think the acting was superb, minus Samuel L. Jackson. Like, he didn't, do
He did
anything
play
for me. And I
Samuel.
hated it.
Yeah.
I hated his makeup. I really hated his makeup because I thought they played up to the, forgive me for saying this, but to the ape-like, monkey-like figure of him.
He did have a very
Kerry
cool bang
Washington,
on, and they darkened his
yeah,
skin.
it just, yeah,
That
it
was
just, it bothered me. Kerry Washington could have been, and I love Kerry. I love Kerry as an actress, but she could have been anyone. That could have been
That's
Janet
true.
Jackson in that
Yeah.
role.
yeah.
So that
She played a
was
minor
neither here
role.
nor there. But the three main characters, I thought they were phenomenal. The thing that pissed me off about this movie, or that bothered me the most about this movie, it wasn't the use of the N word. It wasn't
Me either.
necessarily the the gratuitous violence, because it was violent in ways that it didn't really need to be. It was me thinking, okay, so this is a white man's view of slavery. This is how he's picturing this in a comedic form. I kind of likened it in my head to Jay-Z and Kanye with their album, um, N-Word in
Washington.
Paris, because I don't want us to get bound or banned. N-Word in Paris, right? They have this, album, very successful album, N-Word in Paris. It, sells all of these records. They go on tour. They're performing in front of all of these white audiences, and they're doing this call and response where they're saying N word and the white, predominantly white crowd is giving it back to them N word, N word, N word. I kept thinking about this movie like, okay, so white folks are watching this movie thinking that this shit is funny, that they have a right to go about saying N word, N word, or lessening the severity of what happened during sex. So
I just
that
don't
was one
see
of
it
my
that way.
and you're allowed not to see it that way, but we're talking about how I saw it. And so
Mhm.
I did not like it for that. I don't need Quentin Tarantino, who in other movies loves the N-word, loves to play up exploitation. I didn't need him to tell me this story.
Okay.
Certainly didn't need him to be in the film. Um, so I just it bothered me a lot, and I did not like the fact, and I don't know if you guys picked up on this in the end. I did not like the fact that the end scene was Django and Steven. Hated that.
It was.
So
It
oh,
was. I think that was his. I think that was his idea of, you know, Stephen is the more insidious than Candy,
Yeah.
because Stephen is a sellout. And
Yes.
I think that's
Yeah.
what he
I
was
think
trying to go for. To be honest, I don't know. I want to move forward. A lot of controversy surrounding the N word in this film. The N word is used roughly 116 times in this film. Spike Lee has been very famous for refusing to see this movie.
Spike
my thought on my thought on uh, uh, non-black directors using the N-word in film. And to Spike Lee's, I guess, credit, he didn't say that he was opposed to people using it. But this movie in particular, like, I'm not opposed to people using it, but you got to use it as a garnish and not an ingredient. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be because people don't speak that way all the time, right? It's not used as a pronoun, a proper noun, comma, a period, an exclamation point. Like, it's
I
not
don't
used
think he
that.
did it that bad. I don't know.
He did.
I don't think it was
He
that
did
bad.
in that. He did in that they sounded like they were in the 20th century talking to one another versus
Okay,
in
because
what?
of the language he
a
used
kid
was yes,
lying.
okay. The language he used was in general like the 20th century, which of course I get what you're saying. I'm just saying I don't know. I don't agree that um that he was intentionally just using the N word over and over again just to
I
I
use
mean,
it.
think it
he
fit the
and
context of the conversation
Right.
120 years ago, and
Right. That's how
I
I
it
don't
was a
think.
feel.
term
But
of
I don't think.
it was a
But I
term of
don't think that's.
property. It was a term of property. It was a term that was used to denigrate and break down people. It was
I think he's being honest with the use of the word. It's not like he's not.
I don't think people. Well, at least on this panel, and I don't want to speak for you, Micah. I don't have a problem with the use of the N word in the movie. I have a problem with the use of the N word in this comedic fashion from this director
All right, real quick.
because I
I'm
agree.
gonna play one thing real quick, and just to make your point. Actually, let me just.
Somebody is out there actually saying it when it comes to the word nigger, that the fact that I was
See
using
how
it in the
freely
movie
that came up in his
more than it was used back in the antebellum South, in Mississippi, in 1858. Well, then they might have a, then feel free to make that case. But no one's actually making that case. So in other words, what they're actually saying is I should soften it. They're saying I should lie. They're saying I should whitewash. They're saying I should massage. And I never do that when it comes to my characters.
And so that's what he was saying to a question similar to why is the N word being used so much? And I don't know. I agree. I mean, I don't think he has to be just because he happens to be a white director. He has to do anything different than the N word was used a lot in 12 Years a Slave.
But 12 Years a Slave, there's a difference
May not be
between.
116 times or whatever the number was, but
I
but this
think
was
to
this was a this was a action movie that was intentionally trying to get your attention. I mean, he overdid everything. It wasn't just like he overdid the N word. He overdid
But
everything.
that,
The blood
but
scenes,
that's,
the violence,
but that, but
the
that's what I
dialogue,
said. That
everything was overdone.
that was that was my point. I don't need a white director to look at or to present this movie about slavery to me in a comedic
But I
form.
don't know there was 100%
Well,
about slavery, and I think that's what Michael's point was.
Yeah,
It was
can I finish?
this is
go ahead.
using this as a backdrop.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not here to defend Quentin Tarantino. You know what I mean? Like,
It's hard to do. I have to admit.
right, but
Let me just
it seems excessive.
it did. I mean, but everything about the movie was excessive. That's my point. Everything about
But
the
that,
movie. It wasn't. He
but
just
that's. I
didn't
think
pick the
that's.
N word and said, "I'm gonna be excessive." He was excessive
But
about
I don't think.
everything.
But I don't think. But I don't think anyone on this panel has honed in on the N word. I'm saying
No,
all of it was
I
shit.
can.
All of it was shit.
I enjoy it. It kept my
All
attention.
of it was shit.
And
All of
actually
it was shit.
and it was enough to, like, for example, Robbie felt something when he was watching this, and that was important. That's important for someone
I'm not
to be
saying that
watching a
people
movie
wouldn't.
he thinks is
I
a
don't.
western,
I don't
but
think
to feel
anyone would
something.
watch this and not feel something.
All right, let me get
It's just a matter of how you feel.
All right, let me get to these real comments because we're out of time. Actually, Nick Williams is in our green room still. He's hanging out with us. He says,
nice.
the issue I have with the movie is that it's over dramatized. The experience of slavery compared to a movie like 12 Years a Slave or even Roots. He agreed it wasn't fan, though it was over the top. And he says he said Leo used the N word way too well.
I mean,
That
don't
always
come in my
bothers me
face.
with actors. That always bothers me with actors. Like, man, that's really effortless on your part. Like, you're not an actor.
Like I said in that clip, look how effortless it was for Tarantino to use it in that clip.
Yeah.
And he's been accused of this before.
And just to
But again,
clarify, that clip was he was an acceptance in the Golden Globes. That's where that clip came
my biggest issue is not with this film is not the N-word. Far from. There are other things that take precedent for me before the N-word. And we could talk about it in
So
the
there are more
after show if
issues.
we have
Yeah. All right. I feel you on that. There were some little things in there that bothered me. I won't lie. But okay, Latoya Blakely said, "I'm with Neo. It was hilarious to watch Jamie fuck over that overseer all the way up with a whip. That was funny." All right, the revenge aspect of the movie sets Black Progress. This is from Mike Winter. Sorry. The revenge aspect of the movie sets Black Progress back so far. That is the FRA. I don't know what that is. That the Republicans have been playing on my whole life. The Amistad was an aberration. Just stop messing with us and let us be treated equally. And we won't treat you like you have been treating us. Latoya also says, go ahead.
I was just gonna put this out there, again back to the ending with, Django versus Steven. I think a lot of what pissed me off about that ending is there was no opportunity to explore the idea. Steven was Django.
Steven being a Samuel L. Jackson character, by the way.
Yes. That character was Django in like 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Because Django was very harsh on the Black folks that he met along the way. And a part of it was him, playing the character of the slaver, but a part of it was, self-preservation, which is what Steven was doing, self-preservation.
And Latoya Blakely did comment on the clip. She says, okay, so I did not like how smoothly that came off his lips. I do understand what he's saying, that the N-word was rolling off the tongues of the white people who owned slaves, and he wants to be accurate in his portrayals since his movie set, but I don't like him using it. And I agree with that. That's how I was feeling when I heard him say it. I'm like, he's using it a little too liberally himself. I didn't like it. So,
which is what he's projecting in his movie.
And then that's why it does affect how I see the movie. I agree with you.
And lest we forget, Bruce Lee's daughter called him out about the way he portrays Asians in his movies. And she said to him publicly, don't try to tell me who my father was, because he did some movie where there was a Bruce Lee character or what have you, and it wasn't favorable to Bruce Lee, whom, Quentin Tarantino has never met. And she called him out. She was like, how dare you? How dare you use the stereotypical image of my father in this movie? And he had nothing to say to that. And so this is garbage. We're garbage. Hate it. Hate it.
All right, we're way over time, so we're gonna just have to close this out. So thank you, Micah, for doing that for us. But this is movie time.